In a flashback, when their car breaks down, Barry's mother teaches him a lesson about accepting the things that can't be changed, having the courage to change those that can, and have wisdom to know the difference. Later, Barry comes home from school and finds his mother had been murdered. In the present day, an adult Barry pays his respects to his mother's grave on the day of her birthday. Barry mourns, wishing he could have saved her. Iris then arrives. She assures him there was nothing he could have done at the time and reminds him what his mother said about not to worry about things that can't be changed. Before they can continue, Barry then gets an alert that the Flash Museum is under attack. Barry activates his suit, transforming into the Flash, and arrives at the museum being attacked by 5 different Rouges. Flash holds his own but is eventfully stuck to a wall by adhesive. While trapped, Flash questions the rogues why they are attacking the museum. That's when Obard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, aka Professor Zoom, enters and revels he hired the Rouges in order to tarnish the Flash's reputation. Thawne then revels he plans to erase Flash by destroying the museum and 10 square blocks. He then activates explosives he attached to the rogues' belts and places one by Flash. Flash then stretches the adhesive and sticks Thawne to a pillar, threatening him to deactivate the bombs or else he will die with them. Thawne still refuses and reassures the hopeless situation, that is until the Justice League arrives and plans to find a way to deactivate the bombs. With no other options, Flash instructs them to move the rogues away from the area and deactivate them separately. Once all is done, the bombs are all disabled or detonate in secured areas. Thawne reminds Flash there is still the one bomb in museum, to which Flash vibrates his hand and creates an EMP project to disable the bomb. Despite their victory, Thawne taunts Flash about not being able to save everyone, especially those who matter. Batman tries to advise Flash that Thawne is only messing with him, but with his mother on his mind, Flash races into the Speed Force, saving his mother. Barry wakes up in his office. He sees James Forrest greet him and inform about recent events. There, Barry finds new information about Citizen Cold, an elongated kid. Barry asks for more information about the Rouges, but Forrest is confused and has no idea about the Rouges. Barry dismisses Forrest's confusion and races outside to change into his suit. While running, Barry realizes he doesn't have his ring and trips down some stairs. Barry is then greeted by an older woman, who he realizes to be his mother, somehow alive. She reminds him about her birthday and he promised to take her to dinner. Amazed, Barry embraces his mother in a hug and she fills him in about a war. Barry pulls her aside and revels that he is the superhero named the Flash. Confused, she has no idea what he is referring to. Meanwhile in Gotham, Batman fights with Yo-Yo on top of Wayne Casino. Through the struggle, Batman gains the upper hand and interrogates Yo-Yo, asking for the location of the Joker, who is holding Judge Dent hostage. Yo-Yo denies knowing, so Batman threatens her, demanding for the location of Judge Dent. Yo-Yo states she doesn't know and Dent is probably dead, so Batman throws her off the building. However, Yo-Yo is caught by Cyborg. Cyborg approaches Batman and attempts to recruit Batman into the Resistance. Using a hologram, he sets up a meeting with other heroes from the universe and reveals the war between Aquaman and Atlantis against Wonder Woman and the Amazons. Cyborg states he needs Batman's tactics to help them win the war, but Batman refuses, saying the war is already over and everyone is already dead. Barry runs to the Central City News building to meet with Iris. There he finds her and attempts to talk with her, but sees she has a husband and daughter in this universe. Wanting more answers, Barry breaks into a rundown Wayne Manor and makes his way into the Batcave. That's when he is ambushed by Batman, who wants to know who Barry is and how he tracked him down. Barry attempts reason with Batman and remind him of his and Bruce's friendship. However, Batman states he watched Bruce die in the Ally. Barry then realizes that Bruce was the one who died in Crime Ally, and that the current Batman is really Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne. Meanwhile, Steve Trevor runs through New Themyscira, London, being chased by Amazons and trying to find other members of the Resistance. Steve is eventually caught by Queen Diana of Themyscira. She interrogates Trevor using the lasso of truth and makes him reveal that he is in New Themyscira trying to find Lois Lane. Diana then has her Amazons hunt for Lois Lane while she executes Steve Trevor via hanging. Back in the Batcave, Barry tries to reason with Thomas that he is from a parallel universe. However, Thomas refuses and knocks him down. Barry's ring then falls out of his pocket, and Barry convinces Thomas to let him get his suit form the ring. When Barry opens it, he's shocked to see the suit of the Reverse Flash. Barry concludes Thawne must have time traveled and caused this alternate timeline to be created. Barry concludes that he needs to get his powers back in order to be able to reverse the timeline, and Batman has the means of recreating it. In Europe, Lex Luthor and Deathstroke captain a ship to locate the Atlantean weapon of mass destruction. Before they can pinpoint the location, their ship is attacked by Atlantean forces. The two sides fight. Ultimately, Atlantis overwhelms Lex's forces and holds him captive. Aquaman himself arrives and confronts Lex Luthor. In his last moments, Lex is able to pinpoint the weapon's location before he is killed by Aquaman. Barry sits in a chair with chemicals behind him, while a reluctant Batman activates the lightning rod on the chair. Barry shouts into the storm, however the plan fails, and Barry is set on fire. In Washington, D.C., Cyborg meets with the president and tries to convince the president to let the superheroes help. However, the president refuses, stating the military will handle the Atlantean wound before relieving Cyborg of duty. In recovery, Barry has visions of this timeline's history, seeing Superman's pod pass over Smallville and crash landing in Metropolis. Aquaman and Diana set up a peace between Atlantis and Themyscira, and then he has an affair with Diana. Enraged by this, Mera confronts Diana and attempts to kill her, but Diana kills Mera and takes her crown. Following Mera's death, Atlantis declares war, and crime ally Thomas Wayne beats Joe Chill while Martha comforts Bruce. Thomas slowly approaches her and sees Bruce dead and bloody. Devastated by his death, Martha covers her crying with her hand. Her cries turn to laughter with a smile of Bruce's blood over her face. Barry awakens in the Batcave, burned and panicking. Thomas calms him with a sedative. Barry explains that he somehow remembers events from this timeline in addition to the memories of his own. Barry fears that eventually he'll forget everything from his timeline, so they must hurry and try again to restore his powers. Aquaman meets with Vulko, telling him to gain control over their weapon. Vulko warns him that the weapon is growing more and more unstable and could potentially destroy the entire planet, but Aquaman only interprets the warning as having to use it as last resort. Vulko slams his fist on the holding cell in anguish, admitting that millions will die because of him. It's revealed inside the containment cell is Captain Atom. Barry and Batman try again to recreate the accident that gave him his powers. When the machine activates, lightning strikes the rod, but the plug disconnects. Batman reconnects it but gets knocked off the balcony by a surge of energy. Barry watches time slow down as he uses his regained super speed to catch Batman. In New Themyscira, Lois Lane runs for her life while being chased by Amazons and a three-headed creature. She records her findings that Aquaman will invade New Themyscira tomorrow. Just then, she is cornered by Amazons and the three-headed beast. Lois accepts her death, but then a yellow blur zips through the Amazon forces and kills them all. Lois is then met by Grifter and other Resistance members. Lois questions Grifter about the speedster who saved her, but Grifter assures her that there is no speedster in the Resistance. Batman checks on Barry's health and concludes the Speed Force has healed his burns. Batman then throws Barry the suit of the Reverse Flash, so Barry vibrates and alters the colors to resemble his old suit, becoming the Flash once again. Batman tells him to try and gain enough speed to try and break the time barrier. Flash races off and tries to gain enough speed, but he finds himself unable to run fast enough. Meanwhile, in a hangar base, Hal Jordan meets with General Sam Lane, who shows Hal his mission: to fly an alien spaceship, once flown by Abin Sur, and make it to the Atlantean weapon and destroy it. Hal recognizes that it would be a one-way mission but accepts the risks. In Wayne Manor, Flash and Batman try to find information on Superman. While they wait for the information to load, Flash explains that despite his powers having been restored, he can't run fast enough to break the time barrier. Flash concludes that another speedster must be siphoning the Speed Force and keeping Flash from going fast enough, believing it to be Thawne, Professor Zoom. Without himself as an option, Flash decides to find a backup plan in the form of Superman. Flash explains that Superman would be the only one fast enough to break the barrier. However, he discovers that Superman crashed into Metropolis 30 years ago. The two meet up with Cyborg in Metropolis, and Batman agrees to join Cyborg's resistance only if he leads. The two then ask Cyborg for his help in locating Superman. Cyborg gets a link and takes them to the secret military base Superman is being held in. They make their way through the base and find Superman's holding cell. A weakened and frail Superman hesitantly follows them outside the base. Once outside, they are surrounded by soldiers demanding them to surrender Superman. The soldiers open fire upon them and they try not to kill as many as they can. Superman begins to charge his powers from the sun and accidentally kills the soldiers with his emerging heat vision. Despaired over his lack of control, Superman flies away. Barry collapses and has a seizure as his memories begin to change. An officer driving Barry away from his mother's murder scene becomes his mother driving him. The Justice League fighting Satro turns into Cyborg fighting Starro alone. Barry's position in the Justice League is replaced with a memory of his position in the military. And Barry's wedding to Iris becomes a dinner with his mother. Over the ocean, Hal flies the spacecraft and attempts to bomb Aquaman's army. However, he is swallowed by a Leviathan and explodes inside it. Flash awakens in a house and overhears word that Hal died on a failed kamikaze mission and that U.S. forces are retreating to D.C. The final battle has started. Batman opts to quit and advises them to enjoy the things they love while they still can. Flash inspires the resistance and the team flies to New Themyscira to prepare for the fight. On the way, Batman confirms Flash's suspicion that Zoom is alive in this timeline. Suddenly, their plane is taken out of the sky by Atlantis. Atlantean forces enter New Themyscira when they are suddenly ambushed by Amazons. Diana leads a charge against the forces and the conflict escalates. Suddenly, Etrigan and the Resistance arrives. Lois tries to convince the two sides to stop fighting or they will destroy the entire planet. Their attempt fails and conflict starts up again. Aquaman and Wonder Woman directly engage in conflict, remarking about past events. Suddenly, Aquaman is interrupted by Flash, Batman, and Cyborg, while Wonder Woman fights against Captain Thunder. Aquaman knocks Batman outside, and he is chased by Black Manta. Grifter provides cover fire as the two hopelessly fire at Black Manta's bulletproof suit, until Batman uses a grenade to damage Manta's suit, and the two gunslingers unleash a barrage of bullets onto Manta, killing him. While talking to Grifter, Batman is mortally wounded by a blast of energy from Ocean Master. Flash takes Batman out of the fight, but Batman orders him to not worry about the people dying and to find Zoom in order to change this world. Zoom arrives and Flash begins chasing after him, eventually catching Zoom on a building top. Zoom beats Flash and stabs his leg with a piece of rebar. Weakened and injured, Barry watches the conflict continue as tens of hundreds die. Wonder Woman manages to beat Captain Thunder and kills the Shazam kids. Zoom taunts Barry and forces Barry to realize that he himself is responsible for the Flashpoint world, making Barry realize that this happened because he saved his mother. Barry denies the facts, stating it shouldn't have affected things before her murder like Superman's landing or the Wayne family. Zoom explains to him the ripple effect: break the sound barrier, sonic boom. Break the time barrier, temporal boom. Ripples of distortion radiated out through that point of impact, sifting everything. Barry remarks his love for his mother, but Thawne reframes it as a selfish justification for Barry to recklessly mess with time for personal gain. Among the fighting, Aquaman mortally wounds Cyborg and tears apart his armor. Moments away from killing him, Aquaman is interrupted by the return of Superman, who cuts off Aquaman's arm with his heat vision and knocks him back with his super breath. Superman comforts Cyborg as he shuts down due to his injuries sustained. Aquaman wanders through the battlefield and notices his army is slaughtered. Just then, Wonder Woman stabs him in the back and demands him to surrender. Aquaman calls out her terms, and Diana reveals she just might let the women of Atlantis survive. Aquaman refuses and activates his ultimate weapon just before Diana kills him. Vulko attempts to free Captain Atom and stop the weapon, but he is too late, as Captain Atom is overcharged with energy and unleashes a wave of destructive energy. Barry watches the blast wave approach them as Zoom taunts his inability. Zoom restates Barry's helplessness, but then Zoom is shot in the back of the head by Batman. Barry comforts the dying Batman as Batman tells him to hurry and save the world by preventing this one from happening. Thomas then gives Barry a letter before he demands him to run. The wave draws closer as Diana is consumed by it. Barry attempts to gain speed but struggles due to his injuries sustained. Barry is eventually successful and gains enough speed to run into the Speed Force. There, Barry finds his past self attempting to save his mother. Barry tries to warn his past self, who simply knocks him back and continues to try and save his mother. Barry does eventually catch up to his past self and tackles him to prevent the Flashpoint. Barry wakes up in his office and notices the apocalyptic headlines are gone. Barry rushes out of his office and goes to his mother's grave to pay his respects. Iris arrives and comforts him. Flash is then seen in the Batcave explaining to Bruce the events of the Flashpoint. Barry states that he still somehow remembers everything from that other world and gives Bruce the letter from Thomas. Bruce opens it and cries, thanking Barry for the letter. Barry waves goodbye and runs off.